Hi Year 5! So this is your first reading lesson of the state of being we are geographers. So this is going to be based on a text called The Water Cycle. But first, a wordy warm-up. So you've got 3 words there: biodiversity, drought and sustainable. So which picture do you think goes with which word? Pause the video here to give yourself some thinking time. Okay, unpaused. Right, let's have a look at each of those. Okay, biodiversity relates to the picture of loads of marine life there in the oceans, a turtle and loads of different fish. Biodiversity means the variety of plant and animal life in a particular habitat. And of course, the greater the biodiversity, the better a sign that that habitat has been looked after. Drought is a prolonged period of no rainfall leading to a shortage of water. This is the picture is in Laos, which is in Southeast Asia. That poor boy is stood on an area that's supposed to be his family's farming land. And finally, the word sustainable means to be maintained at a certain level or rate. And the word sustainable can come into different things, but when it's linked to the environment, sustainable means to look after our planet to keep it like it is, or like it should be. Okay, we're going to go into the text. There's some a vocab question, an explanation question, and a retrieval question. First of all, what is an aquifer, and can you put it into a different sentence? Secondly, can you explain what effect hurricanes have on the water cycle? And what might prevent precipitation from being absorbed into the ground? Okay. We've got 4 bits of the book, 4 double-page spreads of the book. Like I said, the water cycle. It is an American text, so in a couple of places you might see Americanizations in the text. See if you can spot them. Groundwater. Some water in the soil trickles deep into the ground. This water is called groundwater. Eventually, groundwater collects in aquifers. Aquifers are layers of rocks that are deep under the soil in the saturated zone. Aquifers have tiny holes in them, so they can absorb and hold water. Eventually, the groundwater seeps out of the aquifers, it flows into the rivers and streams. The picture shows the water in this stream was once in the underground aquifers. Then there's a diagram. On one side, it talks about the unsaturated zone, which you can see here is just under the soil at the start of the rocks. So the soil itself and the start of the rocks is the unsaturated zone. There are spaces in the soil near the surface of the ground. The spaces in the soil are filled with soil moisture or air. There is always some air in the soil, so it is not saturated or soaked with water. The layer of soil that contains both soil moisture and air is called the unsaturated zone. Oh, I've just done that all wrong, haven't I? I called that the saturated zone. Not reading the un prefix at the beginning. Oh well, I'm sure you can forgive me. Right, now the saturated zone. That's underneath the unsaturated zone. And let's hear about that. Some water flows deeper into the ground and becomes groundwater. This water collects among soil and rocks. At a certain point, so much water collects that the soil becomes completely saturated with water. This layer of the ground is called the saturated zone. In the saturated zone, soil contains no air. And underneath the diagram it says, water and air fill the space between the soil and rocks in the unsaturated zone. In the saturated zone, groundwater fills all the other spaces between the soil and the rocks. Now I know that if we were in class, you'd have corrected me as we were going along, so I wouldn't have made that mistake. Well, not for long anyway. Next page. Freshwater. Groundwater and the water in lakes and streams is freshwater. Freshwater does not contain a lot of salt, so it is safe to drink. Many living things need fresh water to survive. Freshwater is not just found in liquid form. More than 2/3 of Earth's freshwater is in the form of ice and snow. The next page talks about collecting water. People use fresh water for drinking, cooking, taking baths and washing clothes. To make sure there is enough water for everyone to use, people collect and store fresh water. They store it in large tanks or reservoirs. A reservoir shown below is a human-made lake. Now we've got a few human-made lakes around Bristol. Do you know of any? Pop them in your answers to this question and I'll see them on the bottom of your page. On the run. Not all precipitation soaks into the ground. In some places, the ground is too steeply sloped or too rocky to absorb water. Saturated soil also cannot absorb water. Some rain and melting snow trickles downhill over land. Water that trickles over land is called runoff. Runoff flows into lakes, rivers and streams. Runoff eventually ends up back in oceans, just as all water does. Runoff in cities. There is a lot of runoff in towns and cities because water cannot soak through pavement. Most of the runoff flows into sewers. Sewers are underground pipes that carry runoff to rivers, lakes and oceans. Some sewers carry waste as well. The caption under the picture says, without sewers, runoff might flood city streets. I wish I'd got a glass of water before this. And the caption under the picture of a seagull says, this ground cannot absorb any more water. The water that is not absorbed will become runoff. Okay, I would like you to read the last double page to yourself. So pause the video here, and then I want you to read for yourself. Take your time. Okay, a reminder of those questions. What is an aquifer? Can you put it into a different sentence? Can you explain what effect hurricanes have on the water cycle? And what might prevent precipitation from being absorbed into the ground? Pause the video here and write your notes. Okay, let's look at the answers together. So an aquifer is an underground layer of rock that holds water. A different sentence might read, permeable rock holds water within the saturated layer of aquifers. The next question, can you explain what effect hurricanes have on the water cycle? Hurricanes lift ocean water onto the land. This causes the groundwater level to rise, risking flood. And finally, what might prevent precipitation from being absorbed into the ground? Where the ground is too sloped or too rocky. And I've just thought, as I was reading, it should also have said, no more precipitation will be absorbed in the saturated area of the ground. Then I'd have to move that up so you can see it. Okay. Right. I'm sure you did well on those. So well done. If you think you did really well, give yourself a house point, write it on the bottom of your sheet, and then we'll see it when you upload your photo or email your photo of your work. Okay, so to finish, here's a little spag task. Here is another extract from the book. I've taken out the correct punctuation, and can you add it back again? I'll read it to you, and I'll read it as if the punctuation's not there, or, you know, as it is, without the punctuation. Deep breath. Water vapour is in the air all around you, even when you cannot see it. On a hot day, the air may feel humid or damp. Humid air contains a lot of water vapour. The wind lifts some water vapour high into the sky. It may also blow water vapours far from the place where it was liquid water, full stop. Can you see what happens without punctuation? I don't know where to stop and take a little breath. I don't know where to pause because there's no commas or full stops to tell me to do so. Okay, can you pause the video again and take a little look at where you think the punctuation should be? Where have I got capital letters where they shouldn't be? Where have I missed a capital letter where it should be? Where should those commas and full stops go? And have I got anything else that shouldn't be there? Okay. Right, our final bit. So underneath the clouds, there it is. There are 13 bits of punctuation. Now I remember on the telephone one of our classmates in St George needed to keep a good lookout for capital letters that shouldn't be there and capital letters that should be there. So hopefully this task will be right on the money for him. What can you spot? Did you find all 13? Great, well done. Well, with the pausing and the reading yourself, that should have, and writing down what you needed to write down, and of course uploading your work, that activity should have taken you about 30 minutes. Okay, see you next time.